Hey there, same Andrew, same yellow shirt. Um, Today, I want to talk about less is always more. Less is always more. And I'm going to do my best to not take too much time here. We'll see. So, I actually agree that less is always more, except when it's not. And I think that's really what it should be, is less is always more except when it's not. Because what less is always more is generally doing is shortening or shrinking something. That is to say, if I had 5 words to make the sentence and I set it into one, it would be a concise form. But I would be missing 4 words. I'd actually be missing 80% of that. And I would be constructing a new sentence, a new thought from that that's missing 80% of itself. So in some way, it's actually less. It's 20% of the actual statement with an intention to express more through that, except it's not. And a lot of times what actually happens is less is way less because we've shortened and shrinkened and we're leaving so much up to guessing what that person may be saying, and so we are taking it from it and we're saying, okay, this and that, it must have been that, and I know that this is that, and therefore what they're really saying is this, except that's not what they're really saying. What they're really saying is the simplified word intending to mean the longer phrase, and our job is to get that out. Whereas if they just said the longer phrase, that would be. This video is that. It is taking less is always more and stretching it out to say, well, actually, less is not always more. Less is a lot more. That the intention of what more is that we're saying, well, there's more thought. If I say less, there's really more in there. Well, there's more space in there. There's more guesswork in there. But as for what is actually being said, there's a lot less in there. So in some ways, yes, less is always more. And in other ways, less is a lot less. And somewhat a little bit more dangerous because instead of saying what I'm trying to say, I'm giving a brief idea of what it is, a brief possibility of what it is. And then somebody has to guess what I'm saying, and then I'm guessing what they're saying back. And we end up miles and miles away from each other. However, we think we're aligned because we're in this communication where we're saying less and less and less. And yet to speak in the way that I'm speaking right here would be exhausting. And if we had to live our days going through talks like this, which my poor wife has to deal with me on that, but if most people had to deal with that, they would be exhausted, right? And that's okay. It's important to know that there is no perfect, that there's just ways of trying to get through the day. And when we're doing this, that when people are saying it's actually not what they're saying less to try to say more, which is actually less. And therefore, much of our communication is a fraction of what it's actually intended to be. And I don't have an answer as to how do we correct this. I don't know if there is. I see it as an inherent flaw within language and also an inherent wonderfulness of language, and that we can do this sort of thing and be in communication. It's a dual-edged sword. Maybe there's more edges than two. I don't know. So I don't have answers. I have more questions. I hope you start to think a bit more about what is it we're saying when we say stuff. Is less more? Is more less? Or other things along the way. So, as always, putting things out there. Let me know what resonates, what doesn't resonate, and we'll vibe on that. All right. Peace, y'all.